Okay, just letting everyone in. Hope you're all doing well. Okay, I'll just let everyone else in as they arrive. Nice to see all your familiar happy faces. Nancy, how's it going in the States now that the election is over?
Well, I know I was out celebrating yesterday. And people were dancing in the streets in the cities. I mean, the president hasn't conceded, and so God only knows. He did get 70 million votes. So what's going to happen from here is a little scary, to be honest. Yeah. Because people are, the other side is really angry, but the President-elect Biden, he gave a fabulous speech, as did his Vice President-elect. She's wonderful. And so I know I'm happy, and I feel like I woke up to a better world today. So
that's fantastic. Anyone else in the States wants to share their feelings about what's happened? I always find it a bit strange to comment as a South African and not as an American, but I'm always fascinated as to what happens with your elections and how things impact the world, because it does.
So I'm in Baltimore, and as Nancy said, almost every city instantly they took to the streets and they were singing. There were bands. It wasn't like protest. It was a celebration, and everybody. It was like hope and relief. Hope was one of the big comments, and there was no violence even as it got dark. None. So I'm like, I look at this as not as much the election as maybe we're coming together as one. Where
mm-hmm.
it was a huge move forward, I think.
That's fantastic. Good, because hope is definitely something we need in these times. 2020 hasn't held much of it.
Yeah, but it's always the dark right before the dawn,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm extremely hopeful as a human, but I think that the universe has got this, as you said this week, well orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very long few days of counting for everybody on both sides, I think. And I mean, I know I sat up a couple nights till well into the night, just waiting for something to happen. And so win, lose, or draw, it's over and it's time to move forward. And I think that his speech was an attempt at least to say, let's get back together, because it's been frighteningly divisive here.
And he announced this morning he already has his website, Build Back Better, and several of the items on there are things about us rejoining other countries, the World Health, the Paris Treaty on Climate Change, things, and then all of the things that came in from other countries. It's really interesting to see. And I don't know, I kind of think maybe the fact that it took so long to count gave everybody a chance to get calibrated. Instead, if it had happened that night or it had been a landslide, energy would have built against it, and it gave people a while to, even though I did stay up late too, Nancy, it taught us patience.
Yeah, that good old patience.
Yeah, I would also say that one of the first things that he's talked about is building a team to address the COVID problem, because of course it's completely out of control in the States. So I was very, very happy to see that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next few months are definitely going to be an interesting time. And obviously for all of us, I mean, as we head towards the end of this year and all of these astrological events that are coming, it's definitely going to be interesting. And when I looked into the energies of where we're at and what this week is holding for us, there's definitely a more positive shift that is happening. How that unfolds in each one of us and how that unfolds in the world, I think is going to be determined a lot by how we all are within ourselves. I mean, if we look at the world as a reflection of our inner world, if our inner world is peaceful, then we're going to experience peace. If our inner world is in turmoil, we're going to experience turmoil. And I think we are needing to become more and more aware of how that inner aspect of ourselves manifests externally for us. And I always like to think of it as, if I feel peace, then that is all I see. If I feel confusion and chaos and fear, that is all I'm going to see. So where we are putting our attention within ourselves is going to be what we are seeing externally. And the more we can learn to find that place of peace within ourselves, almost that place of grace where grace allows us to be who we are and allows the world to be where it is and allows everyone else to be where they are, we are going to have a much easier time moving through these next few months. I mean, there is this, and I've been saying it for months, if not years, there is this alignment that is happening within us that is aligning us, our human kind of ego self, more and more with our soul aspect, or that divine aspect of ourselves. And that is really what we're being pushed to do now. So anything that is out of alignment with that aspect of us is going to reveal itself in whatever way or form it needs to, almost driving and pushing us so that we can actually start to embody that soul divine aspect of ourselves rather than the human ego aspect. Of course, the human ego aspect of ourselves is needed, but it needs to be put back in its place. It can't be the driving force behind our lives. It can't be the driving force behind our choices. That is the soul aspect that needs to kind of take over now. And the more we step into that full embodiment or that full alignment, the easier things are going to be, the easier our life is. And it gives us the opportunity to start to see where the gifts are in our lives, where the gifts are in the experiences that we are having versus the chaos and the confusion and the lack of clarity. It's almost like as we align ourselves with that part of ourselves, we start to see more and more of what opportunities are available to us because our perspective expands. So instead of just seeing what is in front of us, we start to see what is coming in from either side of us. And often these opportunities can just arise out of nowhere, and those are the best ones because those are the ones that you haven't searched for, you haven't pushed for, you haven't forced. They're just presenting themselves to you, and that is, it's almost those synchronistic events that need to start happening more and more in our lives, because it's those events that give us the stepping stones to be able to move forward into the new lives and into the new world that we're creating for ourselves. And one of the things on a subconscious level that we're needing to work through and needing to become more aware of is, where is the resistance in us to change? If there is resistance to change, we're going to find this time really, really challenging and difficult. We need to release that resistance to change. The world is changing. We are changing, whether we like it or not. It is happening. It is a necessary force that needs to happen in order for us to evolve into a better space in ourselves, to evolve into a better world. So if we are resisting change, that resistance in us is going to become more and more and more uncomfortable. And often the resistance that comes up for us is something that lies within our emotional aspect. So the emotional aspect that we need to look at is, or maybe we need to look at what is our relationship to change? What is our relationship been like in the past to change? Do we see change as a negative, or do we see it as a positive? Or do we have a neutral response to it? Because ultimately that's actually where we need to be. We need to be in that neutral space so that we can engage with the changes that are happening without having that internal reaction, which is often negative. And we can just allow what needs to happen to happen. And the more we move into that neutral space, the more we allow things to unfold, because that's also stepping into that space of grace, where we accept where we are, we accept where others are, and we accept where the world is, recognizing that things are changing, that we're coming to the end of a cycle. And I've in the last few months have actually started to wonder if the cycle that the end of the cycle that we're coming to is not the cycle that was prophesized for 2012. I'm starting to wonder if, somehow whatever happened in 2012, the effects of that are only really being felt now, that perhaps the door opened in 2012 and now we're stepping through that door only now, 7 years later, 8 years later. Because we're also being urged to look at how are we living? How are we experiencing life? And from what place are we experiencing life? If we are experiencing life from a place of resistance or fear or anxiety or worry or all of those kind of things, we can't actually see what is in front of us. We can't actually see the stepping stones that are being presented to us. We just stand frozen in that space of fear and anxiety. So it's almost like the more we connect to that soul part of ourselves, the more we understand that actually everything is divinely orchestrated, including ourselves and our lives. From a soul's perspective, we have chosen this experience, and we have chosen to be here at this time in one of the most, I would say, confusing, turmoil-filled time in our world. We have chosen to be here. And I do, on a daily basis, sometimes say, what was I thinking and what am I doing here? But at the same time, it is very, very exciting because we get an opportunity to be part of this massive shift in consciousness, this massive change in consciousness. But that shift in consciousness needs to happen within ourselves first before it will start to happen in the world. And again, the more we shift our consciousness, the more we see the consciousness shifting in the world around us. So my sense is that there's a lot of internal adjusting that is happening, internal realignment that is happening. I've been noticing this week working with clients on one-on-one sessions, there's a lot of stuff that has shifted in people's internal foundation because of what they've been through in this year. So there's a lot of changes that have resulted on an internal level, and the foundation that they have built for themselves internally has shifted or changed or been cleared out completely, and they're having to build a new one. And so there can be this feeling of the ground kind of moving beneath you without any real kind of stability. But I think that we are being given the next couple of months to build that stability, and to really focus on what do I want to feel within myself versus how do I want the world to look. If we start to focus on ourselves and how we want to feel, then the world will automatically shift and adjust to that. So if we can focus on what are the qualities that I want to have in myself and in my life, what are the feelings that I want to continuously feel. I mean, recognizing that we are human, having a human experience. We are here to experience sadness. We're here to experience anger. We're here to experience fear. But predominantly, what are the emotions that you want to be feeling? And how do you start to manifest those within yourself? What needs to change in you so that these feelings and these emotions can be the dominant ones? So the next few months really, really are about that. And once we start to stabilize that inner foundation, it is going to activate within us a new energy that we can start to work with to create our lives. And for some reason, I keep getting that February is going to be this massive move forward, that until February, we're given this time to process internally, we're given this time to analyze, we're giving this time to realign, but only come February is there going to be a massive push forward. And I kind of looked the other day to see if there were any significant astrological events or eclipses, or it doesn't seem to be too much happening in February, but maybe that's exactly what we're needing, is that on a cosmic level, we're needing a bit of space from all the intensity so that we can actually move forward without being bombarded by planetary alignments and eclipses and all that sort of thing. So it is going to be a real internal time for the next few months. And that's also why I'm interested to see what happens in the States and how things unfold there, because there's a lot of focus outside of yourselves. There's a lot of focus on what is happening around you and how the impact of this presidential election, what that impact looks like. And I think that possibly there's going to be a lot of shifting and shuffling around before things actually really settle for you guys. And that settling may only happen in January or February. So it'll be interesting. I don't think Donald Trump has had said his concession speech yet. I'm not sure he's going to concede. They might have to kick him out the White House. So it's going to be interesting. But I think what is important is that we continue to draw our awareness inside. We continue to draw our focus internally and look at what we're needing to shift and change in ourselves, rather than being triggered by the outside world and external events. It is all happening as it should. It is going to play out in the way it needs to play out. And we just need to make sure that internally we are stable and that our foundation is being built and is becoming more and more stable. And once that happens, we have this massive opportunity to release any remaining fears, any remaining anxieties and worries, anything that is going to block us from that feeling of unity in the world. And so, remember that as you build your foundation, you will become more and more secure in yourself. So it doesn't really matter what's happening in the external world, because that security that you need is an internal security. And I think it's as we kind of slow down to, I don't think things are going to slow down. I think that's maybe wishful thinking. But as we move towards the end of the year, it is important that we make time to slow down. We take the time that we have, where we don't get impatient, where we wish things would move faster, that the changes that we want to see happen in the world happen now. It is almost like just take the time out that you're going to need, because you're going to need it for next year. Next year, there's a rush of energy that comes in, and you're going to be needing to work with that energy. Whereas now the energy is focused more internally. So work with it, rest when you can, relax when you can, take time out when you can. And remember that in those times of resting and taking time, you are still busy. There's stuff that is happening on an energetic level. There's stuff that's happening on a subconscious level. I don't know, I'm sure you've all seen that one meme where there's, I can't remember, someone lying flat on their back, exhausted. And the meme is, what do you do all day? And it's something about shifting dimensions and changing consciousness. And I always relate to that, because there are times where, I think I can't actually take another step in my day and I need to go and have that lie down. And in that time, I realized that there's time that in that time, there's shift and changes happening. And I don't know about any of you, but there are moments where it normally happens if I go and lie down during the day, where I can actually feel the energy just pumping through my body, and it just, these waves of energy just moving. And it always reminds me of how important it is to take time to be still in the day, because when we are still, we're allowing our energy field to adjust. We're allowing things to realign within our energy field, which doesn't happen as effectively if we are busy all the time. And I think it's also, you know, that those times where it's important to just be meditating is fantastic. But if you can't meditate, literally stare out the window for 10 or 15 minutes, you know, just allow yourself that time to integrate what is happening internally and what is happening on an energetic level. I don't know if anyone else has got anything they'd like to share or any questions they'd like to ask.
Hi, Kate. I noticed, I've been thinking about it a lot this week with everything going on, that I think this group has really helped me to turn inward, because I have been feeling about pretty much everything in my life so much more peaceful than I was a couple months ago. You know, even with all the chaos, I feel like I've been able to stay in that observer place more. I'm enjoying working from home and my job more than I used to. I'm just feeling more peaceful inside. Okay, yesterday really helped, because that was kind of a missing piece. I admit, I woke up Wednesday morning and said I couldn't even turn the TV on to see what happened the next morning. I called my boss, or I Zoomed my boss and said, break it to me, is he president? You know, but but overall, I have been trying to, you know, keep myself in the bubble with the shield around it. I've really been concentrating on that. And I'm amazed at, like, I can watch what's going on, but I don't feel, and it's not that I feel disconnected from it in the sense that it doesn't matter, but I feel more accepting. Like, people were texting me and I would just say, I voted. Like, that's what I can do here. And so I really appreciate this group, because somebody was trying to get me to go out this morning. And I said, you know what, this gets my week going and gets me much more centered. But I'm noticing, even though now he's putting fines on if you don't wear masks, I wear one, so it doesn't matter. But so we're going into, I don't know, we're going to go into a complete lockdown, but we're definitely, you know, locking down further. And I'm okay with it. You know, like, I'd just like to see the virus go away, and whatever that takes. And I don't know. So I thank everybody in the group, because I really do think it's brought me a level of peace of mind that I haven't had in a very long time, maybe never. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Nancy. It's been, it really, I was thinking this afternoon when I was kind of getting ready for today, I thought, isn't it incredible how far we've all come? I mean, I think I started these in March and it's already November. You know, and we're all making the effort to be here every week, and we're all making the effort to participate. And it just does seem to be growing and growing and growing energetically. And it feels like this is a kind of like an anchor point. And I really appreciate it. And I mean, as I've said before, when I was going through, having to go through all the stuff in the UK with my brother dying, and I mean, it was incredible, the support that I felt from everyone in this group, and it was a tangible thing. It wasn't an imaginary thing. So thank you. Yes, I agree.
So I have a question.
Sorry, Pat, you go on.
No, you go, Fiona.
I was just going to say, slightly on the lines of, I was fascinated to see how Nancy was going to feel today, because I've been thinking about you since the election, thinking she's going to come on buoyant. She's got to be thrilled. But something that I've reflected a lot on in this week is how honest I've become with myself. And I don't know whether it's through time to contemplate and think, but reactions that I usually have to other people. It even happened today where somebody said something and I would usually say something flippant or disregard it, or say, I don't know, something trivial. I actually was honest enough to admit if I'd made a slight mistake in something that I'd said, and I didn't mind or didn't care about being me. I didn't have that fear that I've often had of where you have to behave in a certain way. So I kind of thought, oh gosh, you know, finally becoming a bit of a grown-up. But I think it's also having, spoken to you guys as well, it's really lovely to know that there are other people who feel and think the same way, and therefore you're not apologizing, you're not hiding. And as a result from that, it then brings out all the other characteristics that you've probably been shuffling in a corner and not wanting to show. And I've just got this sense of release if I can be me. And if people like it, then fine. If they don't, then fine as well. So there's something, I don't know, there's something about this group that has allowed us all to, me in particular, to just be me, which is great. So yeah, thank you. And Anita, my fire didn't fit. I think that's because I got so pleased with myself that I was having this fire fit. They cut the hole too big, so it kind of falls through, but it can be sorted. But yeah, so I just wanted to say I feel much lighter, and it's been fantastic. Every Sunday, wherever I am, I make sure that I shoot back, and short of time changes, I haven't missed one. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about the fireplace.
I know. Another week. It's been an exhausting week, actually, because I think because we had the lockdown, we had 3 days of everything had to get done, and then the lockdown happened, and you wouldn't really notice it. But for me, stress levels of just things closing and everything else, it's been a very, I'm shattered really. But next week is another week, so fingers crossed.
Fiona, how's the lockdown going?
Well, to be honest, Nancy, I've been out today because I bubble with one other household, this chap who's 94. And again, counting my blessings, they happen to have a swimming pool in the basement. So I had a swim today, so I'm exceedingly lucky. But honestly, today was quite quiet, but you've got people walking around as if nothing's going on. So other than a little less traffic on the roads and shops are closed, there isn't a sense that it's like it was before when it was just a ghost town. I think people are just doing their little thing, but doing it as quietly as they can. But during the week, the traffic is still out there, and it's not as big a difference as I thought it would be. So far so good.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot less kind of shock. It almost feels like, the first lockdowns that we all went through, we were quite shocked at what was happening. It was kind of unbelievable. And I think, as we get used to stuff, and we're getting used to this way.
But it didn't stop two neighbours, Friday and Saturday night, full parties in the garden. They're all 20 somethings and they don't give a flying whatever. And in fact, my niece gave me a text yesterday and say, oh, well, if we're in London this week, why don't we have dinner? And I just turned around and said, we're not supposed to be doing that. But I think the whole attitude of the young is they're all doing it regardless. They don't really, short of big groups and people outside, which is an obvious breaking of the law, what people are doing inside their own homes and things, I think a lot of people are not necessarily following the rules.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be the case here because Thanksgiving is coming up in another couple of weeks. And whatever people do on the outside, I think there'll still be the gatherings. And unfortunately, those seem to be the things then, you gather for Thanksgiving and 3 of your family members get sick. I don't know.
Well, they've actually suggested that at Christmas here, if they release us from lockdown around about the 2nd, or if it goes on a bit longer, that if families all then meet at Christmas, everybody's having to do a 2-week isolation after Christmas to then counteract that sort of family gathering thing, which is the same with you with Thanksgiving. But whether people have lost the will to actually follow any regulation by then, I don't know. I think it's definitely weakening.
So my question was, is anybody experiencing changes with your senses? Specifically for me, it is the sense of taste. Food is just like, my favorite foods just are like, and I'm throwing everything out of the refrigerator because it molds, because I'm not interested. But on the other hand, the beauty, we're having a gorgeous fall where I am. It's 80 degrees today normally. I mean, that's crazy. We're having a gorgeous fall and just noticing how gorgeous nature is. So it's like my senses are all adjusting, and I don't know whether that's embodying our souls and our bodies are changing. It's just really strange.
I've definitely had the taste thing, and especially in the last week, it's been quite intense. Yeah. Also, but a couple of weeks ago we had our eyes, so there's definitely something shifting in all of this. Whether I know that there's been a lot of solar activity, solar flares and that sort of stuff. So that always has an impact, because it's a lot of new light energy that's coming in, meant to expand everything. So of course our senses are going to expand. But I do think, our bodies physically, we have to adjust to be able to embody our soul. Physically we have to change, things have to change. That energy of what our soul is far greater in frequency than our physical body is used to. So we're having to definitely expand that. Lynn's just mentioned, my brain feels like it's functioning differently. Difficult to describe, but it isn't the same at all. There are days where my brain doesn't seem to be working.
I would say I've had a shift in taste sensation, but it's almost as though it's not just as I'm eating something, but it's the way it makes my total body feel.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And thinking, yes, I think the thinking is shifting a little bit. Like Nancy, I have been so thankful for the energy bubble meditation that you taught us, Kate, because I have relied on that over and over and over, especially during the vote counts and such. And I had such an emotional, unexpectedly intense emotional release when finally seems that we're done with this tyrant. It's just an incredible feeling, really. But that very emotional week. And so everything that you're saying, Kate, about listening to how we connect with our emotions in a different way is just spot on. I mean, I'm really feeling that. And I will echo also what Fiona was saying about being thankful for this group. Is that it's just such an anchor point, point. So grateful.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, if I can also just say, I mean, I feel exactly the same way as all of you. It's something I so look forward to, and it is becoming, as you say, Kate, just like stronger and stronger, the level of anchoring that's happening. So amazing. And just on a side note, really sorry about your fireplace too, Fiona. Really, it'll sort itself out. Everything has its reason. But what I wanted to say in terms of what you're all saying about emotions and the wonderful thing that's happened in the US, during that last sort of vote counting thing, my family group WhatsApp, they were all going crazy about it. And I, at some point, just sort of stepped back, and I didn't want to get to sort of, because I was kind of at one point going, oh my word, is he going to be reelected? And I just thought, no, don't go into the fear. And I started to do a lot of this sort of deep healing work that I've been talking about for a while. I did another sort of bout of it, but I went into such it felt like such a supportive space. It felt like when I went inside and I just sort of created my peaceful bubble at home, the support was so huge, even amongst the chaos. It was almost bigger because of the chaos. And what I worked on this week, and I thought it just maybe is something that could help, I don't know, some of you. Normally I work just with the emotions. So a lot. And I mean, I've worked with many of my emotions, and I'll carry on working with them for the rest of my life. But I did a lot of work this week just on my connection to my soul, my connection to the crew that's working with me, the spiritual team that's sort of working with me, and to God. I like just working on the connection, actually, and it's been amazing. I mean, I really was quite stunned by what a difference it makes. So I thought to myself, that's also, that's something that I want to carry on with now, because that's also something I want to revisit, from time to time, because just the emotions are so important. But I think that connection thing makes working with the emotions much easier. It flows, everything flows better. And I had worked on the connection because, well, as you know, Kate, I'd sort of been forced to, I'd sort of been like not wrapped over the knuckles, but yeah, my guides had sort of been, and I knew I had to. But now it's something I want to do because I actually want to do it, and I had a bit of fear about it, but I don't have fear about it anymore. Anyway, so I just thought
Thanks, Anita. Well done. Yeah, I mean, I think that if we can find more and more ways of being able to access that soul aspect of ourselves and to feel into what it feels like to embody that part of us, I think that the less fear or anxiety or worry we'll have around, actually doing it. I mean, I think that there is that aspect of I suppose it's our egoic self that is afraid that if we hand over the reins to the soul, then we don't exist. But that's the illusion of that. We think there's the separation, but there is no separation. It is all one. It's just becoming more conscious of this greater or larger version of ourselves and embodying that as well as all the other things. Because, as soul, we are given this opportunity as human to be able to experience emotion. We don't get to experience it anywhere else except here, except being human. So we want the two parts of ourselves, the human part and the soul self, to be able to unify and to work together, and for that separation to no longer exist, even if it is an illusion that we hold in our minds. And the more we connect with it, the more, I mean, I always see it as I think it's a computer motherboard. I kind of am getting this image of a motherboard where the pieces kind of slot together, and it feels like that. It feels like the soul and the human part are slotting together so that they can be unified and work together. And the more we connect, the more we make that connection, and the stronger we make that connection. And it's, so when we pull apart, to pull apart is just that. But ultimately, we're going to merge the two together. And then life should be incredible. Fingers crossed.
Kate, I found out this week what the apple was.
Oh, yes, tell us.
So it's the original sin. So it's kind of like the beginning of the illusion of separation that I needed to forget because there was no sin. What I feel, in my perspective of it, is that it was just the beginning of this illusion that we had to live through. Kind of like, how far could we go from our soul? How far could we go from the spirit until we finally realize that we have to go back home? And it's like, now I'm feeling, okay, you're here as a human, but it's time to go home as a human. And that's the kind of biggest challenge of everything. And it makes me feel really happy and kind of a bit scared, because am I going to be able to do it? But yeah, it's really interesting experience. So yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting, Lynn. Thank you for sharing that. I think also I've often looked at that original sin. I know I've spoken to a priest who's a mentor of mine, and he's always explained how the translation of the Bible from Hebrew and Greek and whatever it is has been, when it gets to English, it can often be misunderstood, because the word originally didn't mean that, but in English, that's the only word we actually have. I mean, I think in Greek, they have 5 different words to describe love. I think also in German. In German, they don't just have one word for love, whereas in English, we only have that one word. And what the original sin actually is the original wound that we all as human beings, as souls, experienced in that separation from the divine. So as we kind of separated out, I always look at it as the divine or God being a big fire or a big flame. And from that flame, all these little sparks went off and experienced creation. But it's that wound of the separation, and it's the healing of the wound that we are that will take us back to that sense of home. I like that. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? All right, and we can get to some meditating. No idea what we're going to be doing today. I did try and kind of say, well, could you give me a little bit of a hint what we're going to be doing, but I got nothing. So I'm assuming I don't need to be prepared for these things. So when you're ready, get yourself comfy. And just allow yourself to settle into your space. And gently closing your eyes. Just draw your awareness down to your breath. And really focus on your breathing. And just take a couple of deep breaths, allowing yourself to let go of any tension, any stress, any worries, any anxieties that you may be having right now. Just allow them to be released with the breath. And just feeling your body relaxing and sinking into the space that you're in. And then when you're ready, dropping your awareness down into your heart center. Just becoming aware of that center. And then breathing into it and expanding it, opening it. And feeling the energy of your heart begin to move in and around you. Creating a space of peace and tranquility. And in your mind's eye now, just see a bright light standing before you. It's very bright and very white and can be difficult to look into. And you allow yourself to begin to move forward and into the light. And you step out of the light and you find yourself standing on a beautiful beach. And the sun is shining and sparkling light is drifting and washing over the ocean. And you allow yourself to just connect to this space and connect to the peace of this space. Allow yourself to dig your toes into the sand and to feel the sand beneath your feet. Feel its warmth. Feel the connection that you have to the earth through the sand. And when you're ready, you find a comfortable place to sit where you can watch the ocean, where you can observe the waves. And you breathe in the fresh air. And you allow yourself to just relax into the space. Enjoying the warmth of the sun and the sound of the waves. And observe the water. What are the waves doing? Are they rough and messy or clean and sharp? Are they small or are they big? And as you watch the waves, observe your feelings and the emotions that are coming up in you. And as you watch the tide coming in and out, just recognize that the thoughts and the feelings that you have are moving in and out. And when you're ready, allow yourself to connect to the ocean, connect to the water in a deeper way. And allow yourself to receive a message from the water, from the ocean. What is it that Grandmother Ocean has to share with you at this time? And if you haven't already, allow yourself to move into the ocean. Allow the waters to wash over your feet and your ankles and your calves as you move deeper into the water. And allow the waves to wash over you, cleansing, clearing, and washing away all thoughts, all feelings, all emotions that you no longer need. Feel your energy being cleared, purified. And then when you're ready, moving out of the waters, thanking the ocean for its gifts, its wisdom. Feel the connection that you have to the water now, and to the ebb and the flow of its changing tides. And recognize that the ebb and flow and the changing tides of your life continue every moment of every day. And maintaining the sense of peace and stability and tranquility that you have gained now. Allow yourself to move back into this time and into the space. Taking a few deep breaths and breathing yourself into your body. Feeling your fingers and your toes. And opening your eyes when you're ready. Well, I hope you're all feeling good after that. And I hope that you got some good messages. I definitely got a few key insights into what I need to be doing for myself, which I'm not doing. Definitely is a time of care and self-nurturing, I've been told. And that goes for all of us. I think 2020 has been a rough year, and we need to remember that we need to take care of ourselves. I sometimes think I'm a bit of a machine and can just keep going. Apparently not.
Hey, Kate.
Did anyone? Hi, Nancy.
When I look ahead, I'm wondering if anyone else has this. When I try to look beyond literally today, it's like always just this blank screen. And not in a frightening way at all, but I literally, it's like I'm not supposed to look beyond the moment that we're in. And I wonder if anyone else is having that kind of experience that, I've always, given that I've always, been kind of psychic, I've always been able to see things ahead. And for myself, nothing, just this kind of completely white space if I look out.
I get the same thing, Nancy. And what I have been told is that there's so many timeline shifts and changes that are happening that if we look, we're going to see a timeline that we're moving beyond versus the timeline that we're moving to. And when I look at it, it almost looks like crossing highways or freeways. And we're moving to get to the highest and best one. But if we look into it now, what we're going to see is this highway, not that highway.
I mean, I definitely also relate to that, Nancy. And Kate, what you just said makes so much sense. What I keep getting as well, though, is even if I sometimes try to, even in like a daydream, when you sort of daydream about these things, and I immediately, a kind of voice comes up and goes, no, we're not going there. It's just a very clear message. No, not appropriate right now. And I just go, oh, okay, let me just focus on what I'm doing right now. And I just bring myself into the moment. And I mean, I used to think about the future much more. If I think about it now, and it's funny because it's happened, like you were saying in the meditation, that every moment you're creating the rest of your life. If I look back now, sort of a few years ago, I was so different about things. There is so much more peace in me now, but it happened so gradually. It's just crept up on me. I didn't even, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy, but it's good.
Echoing what we were saying about this group, what I got during the meditation, after only just before you brought us out, Kate, of the water, I had this sudden sense of all of us here in the water in a circle with our feet toward the center of the circle so we could see each other and we weren't touching. It was like this, it was just so beautiful. It was like this energetic just flow in a circle in the water. And the word that kept coming was buoyant. So thank you all. Just moved me to tears.
I love that. I've got all goosebumps when you're talking about that. Love that.
I
Thank
love
you.
the word buoyant too.
Me too.
But it's funny, Jennifer, because I've had the image of all of us in a circle. I've been getting that a lot, like almost every time we meditate. It's so strange. And last week, I had the word that came right at the beginning was the hive mind. It kept, it's really powerful, really powerful. I'm very grateful.
That's lovely. No, Elisa said she's got to go to Costa Rica. Yeah.
No, I went, I had a great, I felt very, very sad actually. I was crying through that. It was very strange, really, real sadness and sense of loss. And then I went into the water. My father came and sat by me, who died in 97, and actually came into the water with me. And we started sort of swimming around. But when I came out as a small child, holding his hand with my mother the other side. So it was quite strange to go in as an adult, and it was something to do with you were loved as a child or messages of that effect. But it was quite strange to suddenly morph into a very small child coming out. I don't know if that's very strange. Feel a bit shaken by it actually.
Fiona also was very emotional, lots of tears.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but yeah, there were a lot of tears just streaming down the face. Yeah.
That's actually
Fiona, my dad passed in 1997 too. Isn't that funny?
Long time ago, still miss him.
Well, the one thing I do know about this time is someone mentioned it to me this week, is that most of 2020 we've been pregnant with ourselves, and in October we gave birth to ourselves, and now we are nurturing our inner child, or the small child that we are. So it could be that that's kind of what it is about. There's a definite sense of a rebirth and being given the opportunity to live life in a different way. I mean, that is really what we've been gifted with this year, is that opportunity to do that. So I think it's really positive. And I the crying, I think, when I kind of got this, when I went in and started the meditation, and I got this image of a beach with the ocean, I thought, okay, there's a release that needs to happen. When we go to the ocean, it's an opportunity for release. So that's positive. And sometimes we don't know the release that needs to happen. It's old stuff, emotions that we've carried, stuff we've collected from other people around us. These things need to go. But I like what Lynn's just written. She says, see everything through the eyes of a child. Maybe also time to start having some fun.
I'm a newcomer to Facebook, and I did it as a result actually of this group, that I felt like if I'm going to be alone all winter, I need a little more interaction. But I was scrolling through literally just like this through the feeds, and a picture of my grandmother popped up. And she passed away when I was 21. So she's been gone like 45 years. And it turned out they're doing a documentary about my cousin. He's the oldest or the longest performer at Disney World. And they're doing a documentary about him. So somebody had, I assume he did, put the feed up of him walking my grandmother down. But it was just such a, because she died when I was on the train going home on my 21st birthday. And so I think these flashes from the past are just kind of popping up, and not in a bad way, in a good way of, you know, oh yeah, that was a long time ago. It was from a wedding when I think I was probably 19 years old. And my aunts were in the background, and, you know, almost everybody in the picture's gone now. And, but it was just just to have it pop up like that, I don't know, it was odd.
But I think it's also, yeah, there's a lot of, I think there's been a lot of reflecting of where we've been and where we are now. You know, there is this reflection that kind of happens because things are changing so dramatically. You know, I'm certainly not the person that I was 20 years ago. Thank God. Yeah, I look back at that poor girl and I think, oh, shame, you've got a lot coming for you. But, you know, I think it's important that we do have the opportunity to reflect. And in that reflection, we also get the opportunity to, you know, it brings up feelings and emotions that have been trapped, that need to be released, especially when it comes suddenly. So I think it's a positive thing. We don't want things sitting, stagnating, and becoming toxic in us. Time to go, free up that energy.
You know, so many people say, "Oh, I wish I was younger," and I look back at who I was when I was younger, and I think, "Oh, please no." You know, and I don't, it's not that I live with a lot of regrets, it's that I would never want to have to go through those stages unless somebody said you could go through those stages with the wisdom you have at 66.
Exactly.
Then
I'll
maybe,
happily do it now. Yeah, definitely not going back.
there we go. I actually like being the age I'm at. Well, mine is a little harder to move around and things like that, but you know, because I love the wisdom that has come with age. I don't know if other people have that. It's a trade-off you give for losing the agility and things that you had in youth for an agility of your mind and emotions that allows you to be at peace even in the middle of chaos. So I think it's a gift being here to grow older.
I do too. Thanks, Nancy. I like that.
I totally relate. And it's funny because I was sitting with a friend of mine today having coffee, and she's the same age as me, 52. And, you know, we kind of grew up together really. And we were sitting in this coffee shop with these two really young girls next to us having this babbling, you know, conversation. I mean, they must have been 14 or something. And I thought to myself, you know, there was a time in my life when I might have even thought, oh, wouldn't it be amazing we'd be those girls? And I was like, I'm so excited actually to be here with her at this age. You know, the conversations we were having, funny enough, what you told, we were reflecting back on the way we used to be 20 years ago and going, oh my God, like, can you believe what we did? The chances we took with our lives, literally, I mean, not even thinking. And that we could do it with the consciousness that we're doing. We had that conversation so aware of, actually, we knew what was going on with us then. At the time, we didn't. And, you know, that is a gift. That really is a gift, you know. And the nurturing stuff you were talking about, you know, Fiona, that thing that was happening, that nurturing, I'm finding that very prevalent at the moment. Very, very prevalent. You know, I think we really are having to be really gentle with ourselves right now. It's been a crazy time. But yeah, I love being this age. For all the physical stuff, yeah, it is, yeah, tricky, but
I think that's also, when I was little, I never felt that I was nurtured and loved. And I think there's been a part of me that's always resented that. So I have been carrying the resentment. So maybe that's the side of me that's got to let go and just start again. But it's something that stayed with me for a very long time. I'm almost angry with my mother for being such a bad mother, when a lot of it wasn't her own fault or the state that she was in. So I suppose a bit of forgiveness there and move on and start again. So, and as you say, this lovely feeling of being a bit more peaceful, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also important, you know, we learn how to nurture ourselves from our mothers, really. And, you know, mine didn't. And as a result of that, I have been, and it's a bad habit that I've been forced to break, is that just going and not stopping. Because if you stop, you were considered lazy in my family, and lazy was a real insult. So I've purposely gone against that by making sure that I am lazy at every opportunity that I possibly can be. But there is this, you know, this inability, or I suppose the not knowing how to nurture ourselves, because that fundamental or foundational nurturing didn't happen. And we have to actually learn how to do it. You know, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And then not to feel guilty because we're doing that for ourselves, which is also important, because there's a lot of that guilt that comes around of oh, well, I'm being selfish, or I'm being self-absorbed, or which, no, you know, it is essential that we nurture ourselves. All right, anyone else? Yeah, I like that, what Lynn just wrote, Fiona. She says, maybe she was teaching you to love yourself. It's a very good point. I see a lot of nodding happening there. I think a lot of our mothers did that for us. Thanks. Thank you, Pat. Thank you all, everyone. It's always so lovely to connect with you all, and I hope you have a brilliant week. And lots of self-care seems to be the theme at the moment. And good luck all of you in the States. I hope it all continues to just be a celebration. Sending you all lots of love. Oh yes, Pat, thanks. 11/11 is coming. Let's hope that's a celebratory 11/11.
Well, we in the States get the day off for Veterans Day, so the celebration, because I'll be off that day.
Fantastic. Enjoy it. And I'll speak to you all next week. Lots of love.
Thank you again. That was wonderful. I'm so glad I didn't get talked out of staying this week for this. So,
me too.
Bye, everybody.
We would have missed you. Bye,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for all of you in the States.
Oh,
It's really great. So exciting.
yes. So happy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.